to address these challenges, I'd like to talk about the ingredient keys that we have defined as what's important for you to unlock your success as a raw material supplier. As you'll see here, these keys are like cogs in a machine. They're all interrelated, they're all linked, and they each work together and really take constant focus on your part. This, in a nutshell, is how we at LaunchNatural have mapped out what's necessary for building a successful raw materials business. And you'll see we've defined 3 specifics: connection, product focus, and professional infrastructure. So let's talk a little bit more about each of these. The second key is product focus, which is a bit more concrete. And you'll see here we've broken it down into 4 specific areas. The most obvious is what you can say about the product, both on the label and to FDA about the science behind the ingredient. Basically, the price of entry is the strength of your science in this industry. And many companies don't perform clinicals, or they use borrowed science. So the more unique and individual you can make your product, the better success you'll have. And also think about your product development process and how it's set up to support the claims you want to make. LaunchNatural has some great detailed information about the product development process that a former company that Robert worked for went through. And they did so much before the product was ever brought to market. It's important that you have a process like this in place to support your customer. Ultimately, it's going to save you time and money, and it's going to ensure that you have a market for your ingredient before you spend time cultivating the supply. We call this next item brand importance rather than our original title, a recognizable brand. In the raw materials space, a recognizable branded ingredient is an expensive and time-consuming proposition. And while this can, and in many cases should be a goal, early on having the science and the story is more important than the final consumer knowing the brand name. Brand importance is about the story behind your brand. Your customer wants something to talk to their customer about, a narrative that will resonate with them. And this could look like several different things. It could incorporate the science behind the ingredient, something like the example I mentioned earlier about my Harvard University scientists. It could be a great history of use in some exotic location. Sambazan has done an amazing job with acai and bringing that ingredient to the U.S. and raising awareness. But they also work with indigenous farmers in Brazil and have really done so much to make this product all about the triple bottom line. You could also have a compelling story about how the product was created, airborne, created by a teacher to prevent colds. So all of these, again, go back to the consumer connection piece. Don't think just because you're not selling to the consumer, you don't need this story. In this industry, it's the raw material supplier that's doing the research and providing the science, so the finished product companies are relying on you to help them build a successful brand. Speaking of brands, just a quick aside, as you're building your ingredient brand, you also need a strong marketing plan. The best science and efficacy don't mean a thing if no one knows about your product. You should have a professional, consistent message through marketing collateral that supports your sales effort. This is much easier in today's technology age. Webinars, banner ads, e-newsletters, social networking, all of these make it possible to communicate inexpensively with potential customers and share your message. So sourcing expertise and processes. This is the behind-the-scenes stuff that maybe your customers won't ask you about, but they should. And if they do, you should know the answers. Where your ingredient comes from, the process used to make it, the benefits and drawbacks, and anything else about the source that makes you the expert. So know your sourcing partners as intimately as you can. At one of my previous companies, I loved the partner company we worked with in Brazil. They were certified organic, they'd been in business for years, they welcomed customers to visit the entire plant from their organic vegetable garden where they gave the vegetables to their employees through the extraction, blending, and packaging facilities. Plus, they threw a beautiful Brazilian barbecue at the owner's house whenever we brought customers to visit. This goes a long way to ensuring your customers' confidence in the ingredients you're selling. Another example, I mentioned my client who's developing the North American business for an all-natural antimicrobial ingredient. This manufacturing partner happens to be in Australia. But the great thing is we never ask him a question he can't answer. He has examples of other success stories, he has multiple certifications, and more test results than our customers ever want to see. It just makes the whole relationship so much more comfortable for us, for him, and for our potential customers. Last point about sourcing and comfort levels. This should be a no-brainer, but make sure you go visit your growers and see what their facility looks like and what they're really doing. While I hate to stereotype, this is especially true in China. Many of you may know Lauren Israelson, an industry veteran who has basically helped make this business what it is today. He's talked at length on this subject and has some very scary slides of Chinese manufacturing plants that will make you cringe. So it's important to make sure that your vitamin C or glucosamine is not coming from one of these facilities unbeknownst to you. All of this will make life a little easier when that one batch hits your customer's warehouse not meeting spec or with micros higher than they expected. If you've built the connection around your sourcing, these inevitable production issues are easier to discuss. And obviously the product focus piece also needs to include knowledge of your competition. For raw materials, this includes not just the other sources of green tea, but also the other antioxidant products like grapeseed, resveratrol, or the superfruit of the moment. Look at the joint health category. If you sell glucosamine, you're not only competing with other glucosamine suppliers, you're also competing with a host of other ingredients with different mechanisms of action, synergistic approaches, or delivery systems. Being able to differentiate your product is very important. Having a high barrier to entry is also a nice way to fend off the competition. There are a ton of Me Too products, and you need to figure out how, whether it's through technology expertise, higher quality standards, or even superior customer service, you can erect barriers to protect your business. For some, this is easier than others. There's a relatively new manufacturer in the joint health category that's selling a product based on eggshell membrane. I asked them how they were better or different than glucosamine, which is pretty much the industry standard, and their answer was great. Our product is clinically proven and works in 10 days. So already they're ahead of anything that glucosamine can offer because usually it takes 4 to 6 weeks before you feel the benefits of glucosamine. This is a great barrier to entry, and they are very fortunate to have the research to back this up.